St. Raymond Anonymous Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. Hi, I'm Anne DeSantis, Executive Director. In 2015, the Mercedarian Friars came together because they wanted to start a foundation to help families in crisis. And that's exactly what we've been doing over these years. Whether it be something to do with divorce, separation, trauma, job loss, loss of a loved one, or other adversities, we've helped so many families get through those tough times through the spiritual works of mercy. We'd love to hear from you. Please do get in touch with us for our services. They are prayer, priestly consultation, podcasts and videos, and programs and events. We look forward to hearing from you. Just go to nonotus.org and get in touch with me. I look forward to hearing from you. God bless.
Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry present Journeys in Faith. Now, here's Anne DeSantis.
Good evening. Welcome to Journeys in Faith here on Fiat Ministry Network. It's great to be here with you. And I have an amazing guest, and he's also a good friend of both my husband, myself, and my family. I want to welcome Derek Fiorenza to our show. Derek, thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for having me. It's an honor and a privilege. I appreciate all the great work that you're doing with your show and in the community. So thank you for all that you do.
Oh, thank you for all you do. And just to give our audience a little bit of a background for you is that you are the CEO for Summit Group Retirement Planners. And you are also the founder of Fiorenza's Food for Friends. That's a nonprofit organization that helps to feed the hungry. And I believe it's over 42 states, correct?
So I am a co-founder of Summit Group Retirement Planners with my dad, Anthony Fiorenza. And we are a registered SEC advisory firm. We work with employers on their retirement benefits. We also work with individuals on their financial planning needs. In addition to my full-time job, I did found a nonprofit organization in 2011. And the story behind that, it actually precursor was in 2007. I was volunteering at a breakfast event that was providing a food to children, a breakfast with Santa in Christmas time. And I was 19 at the time in college. And I asked the caterer at the event if he would consider donating a few meals that I could serve at a shelter with my family, and he agreed. And then subsequently, we increased every year around Christmas time, 25, 50, 100 meals, until eventually in 2010, we served over 1,000 meals, multiple states. And in 2011, the Lord put on my heart to continue to give back in a larger way. And I founded the nonprofit Fiorenza's Food for Friends in 2011. And that year, we served over 30,000 pounds of food. Today, we have distributed over 6 million pounds of food in 34 states and counting, and Canada.
That's incredible, honestly. And when you think about nonprofits, in my opinion, any nonprofit that feeds the hungry is really doing God's work. And I know that that's where that came from you. It's like really through the Holy Spirit that you really wanted to make a difference for others. And my own husband was on the board for quite a while, and you know, we were both able to learn so much about the great work that you're doing. So let's just kind of backtrack a little bit and talk a little bit more about your day job, which of course is Summit Group Retirement Planners. And I had said CEO, but you're the co-founder with your father, and that's a beautiful thing. Yep. So somebody's watching this video right now and they're wondering if your services might be for them. Tell us, like, what kind of steps would you take an average person through to help them with their retirement planning?
So let's take it from a rudimentary perspective. So a very baseline or no knowledge at all. The thing I would encourage all people to do, whether they work with me or someone like me, is to get a handle on their budget. It's very biblical. In the Bible, it says the borrower is slave to the lender. So you really want to make sure that from a budgetary standpoint, you're tracking your expenses. You're stewards of the resources God has entrusted you with. So whether He's entrusted you with a lot or a little, whatever that might be, you're still responsible for how you're allocating your funds. So you have a responsibility to the Lord and to yourself to be a good steward of whatever God has given you. And then what I'll do in a meeting is I'll basically do a breakdown. What are your fixed expenses? What are your variable expenses? Okay. Fixed are ones that we can not change as easily. Typically, that's like your rent. You're in an agreement or a mortgage for X amount of years, and then you renegotiate it or you refinance it, but you have a contract. A variable would be something along the lines of the subscriptions you might be paying for Netflix or Disney Plus. Do you need to have those subscriptions? Sometimes they go up in price. Sometimes they don't usually drop in price, but sometimes they go up in price. Another example of a variable expense would be your groceries. Monitoring what you're spending at the grocery store. Another area that people spend money and they don't necessarily track is going out to eat or going out for drinks. How much, how often, how frequently, what are they spending? And what you find is from doing these budget reviews, I call them budget analyses or budget reviews. Some people aren't even doing a budget, but let's say they are doing a budget, there's a leakage. And that leakage provides you an opportunity to, number one, pay down debt, number two, to build up savings, and then number three, to save for your future. Studies have shown that 79% of the Americans in our country that are considered to be wealthy or they're millionaires have done it through two ways. They paid off their debt, and while paying off their debt, they have paid off their house. That's included in their overall debt, and they've saved in their retirement plan. So it might not be flashy. It's not like invest in stocks or cryptocurrency. It's slow and steady wins the race. And it takes the average millionaire around 27 years to accumulate that wealth by following those steps. Now, there's no guarantee in life that investments will pan out. But what we do and what we try to do from a planning standpoint is take the necessary steps to protect ourselves as much as possible with the understanding that there are things that are outside of our control. I always preach and teach, control the controllables. The things you can't control, don't waste time worrying about it or letting that create anxiety because you can't do anything about it anyway. And that includes things that have happened in the past that are out of your control. That includes things that are happening present day. And that includes things that will happen in your future. So I see a lot of times when it comes to finances, people say, well, I've failed at finances in the past. I'm already in debt. I might as well just keep spending or not track my expenses because ignorance is quote unquote bliss. Well, it's really not. We know it's not. It's never a good thing to not know, because once you know, you can do something about it. But if you don't know, you're not informed, then you can't take any steps to circumvent or fix that issue. So I would say what I try to do, build the budget, do the budget review, then allocate money to savings. Okay. And as a CFP certificate, I'm a CFP professional. The recommendation is if it's one person, it's usually 6 months of emergency. It's 6 months of expenses that you should have saved. If you're two incomes, you could get away with 3 months, but it's going to obviously determine upon each person's situation. Everyone's situation is unique. But that's money that's sitting in cash in the bank that, God forbid, something were to happen, you could cover 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. And then from there, once that foundation's in place, we've removed debt or we have a plan in place to remove debt. We have built the emergency fund, then we can start building wealth through saving and building and looking towards the future. So very logical, sequentially, it's a disciplined, conservative approach, but it's one that I think that it's had a track record of success. Many people have followed it through the years. And as I said before in the beginning, I started it, I'll kind of conclude it, the circle. It's very biblical. To who much has been entrusted, God, rewards that. So we are all stewards, whether or not we realize it, of our resources, our health, our wealth, our talents, our treasures, whatever God has given us, we're blessed to have the opportunity to live. We are stewards of our life and the opportunity God gave us today.
You explain that so well and simply, and I think that's important for the people that are watching the show right now, because there's individuals of all ages that watch. And there's also business owners too. Did you want to say maybe 1 or 2 words of advice to them? Because they also need to do the same thing for their businesses, don't they?
Yeah, so businesses, that's where I spend a lot of my time. I would say 80% of the time I spend is working with businesses on their retirement plans. But when we think of retirement plans, it's one of those esoteric ideas. Essentially, what that is, it's understanding your culture, your organization, you're running a company. What's the culture of your company? Is your culture one of engagement, empowerment, education, teaching, serving? That's the philosophy that our firm has. That's what we focus on. So our entire approach to serving a company when we work with an organization is making sure that we identify the needs of their employees. We call them team members. And then we become partners on a journey to build to success. So that means making these financial wellness sessions and education opportunities available to the team members. It means having one-on-one consultations where we're able to truly understand the needs that that individual and family are facing. Everyone's situation is so unique. So a lot of this, although we're talking broadly today, is very customized. And that's where in those one-on-one opportunities to engage, we can be thoughtful in our conversations and also hopefully put forth a plan, not only that makes sense on paper, but emotionally resonates with the employee's heart. And if it resonates with their heart, then they're more likely to take action and move forward with the recommendations that we have collaborated on and created together. So I would say for those organizations out there that are looking for an advisor that truly engages and focuses on the heart, not just on the bottom line, that's probably aligns with our values and cultures pretty well.
Now that you explained again, that was explained just so well. Where would be the best place for them to get in touch with you to maybe make an appointment or ask any questions, or maybe give us the website again too, if you would?
So I'm sure you could probably include it in the show notes, but our firm is called Summit Group Retirement Planners. So it's S for Sam, G for Gary, retirementplanners.com.
Okay.
You can get all of our information on our website. We're also on social media. But any questions, please feel free. Even if you're not looking, but you just wanted to kick tires and learn a little bit, please reach out. I'd be happy to kind of provide any advice and support that I can.
And your email is on the website that they can email you directly as well.
Yep. It's the first initial for Derek and then my last name, Fiorenza at sgretirementplanners.com. And we can put that again in the notes if you want.
That's right. Okay. Now, Derek, we do have to take a break. I'll tell that to our audience as well. We will be right back here. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about his nonprofit. That's Fiorenza's Food for Friends. And we're also going to talk a little bit about some advice that Derek might have to those of you who have gone through struggles and adversities. So stay tuned. We'll be right back in a few minutes. Welcome back to Journeys in Faith. Thank you so much for joining us on Fiat Ministry Network with my guest and friend, Derek Fiorenza, and he's the co-founder of Summit Group Retirement Planners. We learned a lot about that during the first half of the show. And I mentioned that he's also the founder of Fiorenza's Food for Friends. Now, the website is, if I'm correct, it is F4Service, the number 4 service.org. And they are a nonprofit throughout the United States that helps to feed the hungry. So tell us a little bit more. Somebody's watching and they're thinking, I'd love to donate. I'd love to help out. What can they do to be a part of it?
I'd love to. And thank you, Anne, for the platform to share our ministry, our mission. So we are a secular nonprofit founded on Christian principles. And the vision of our organization is to create a world without hunger. So how do we do that? that would be our mission. We connect sources of food to recipients in need. What makes us unique is that we're not storing the food, we're not transporting the food, we are coordinating the logistics. So one of our programs is food recovery. We'll work with caterers, restaurants, grocery stores, and let's say they have excess food that they typically would throw out at the end of the evening. We then coordinate logistics for that food then to be distributed and recovered to a local shelter in need the following day. And that's typically how that program works. What makes our role unique in that model, we're not charging the donor or the recipient any type of management fee or operational cost. So it's truly a service that we're providing at no cost to both the donor and the recipient. Very, very important. The second major program we have is what's called food drives, and we coordinate and organize food drives for conferences, for companies, for churches, for other nonprofit organizations. And again, what we're trying to do is facilitate and educate. We are connecting that food to a local food bank or food pantry in need that is supporting that community. So the food is staying local. And again, any of the marketing support, providing education around food insecurity in that community or hunger in that community, that's all done at no cost. Both the company sponsoring the food drive and both the agency receiving the food are not paying for our services. We have a volunteer driving program. So for people that would like to volunteer and they have some time, they would like to transport food, we have opportunities where they could volunteer with F4 and drive to 3, 4, 5 different restaurants in a day and transport that food to shelters. And our last major program is our cooking program. So we've had iterations of the cooking program through the years. It's more localized, but it's one that's expanding. And we will partner with local pantries and churches to get the food cooked and prepared for then local shelters that are in need. Those are the programs that we run. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's just incredible listening to all the services that you provide. And like you said, there's no charges anywhere. So somebody's watching and maybe they're thinking they could help out in their own community. I would say, please do go to f4service.org on the contact form and let Derek and his executive director, Brenda Russell, let them know how you can help. Yep. And people can also organize their own food drives too in their neighborhoods, correct?
That's part of the food drive program. So what someone might say is, well, if they're not charging, then how do they run the organization? So we run things as efficiently and as effectively as possible. We have 2 full-time employees currently. One runs programs and then one oversees the organization. I'm in charge as a volunteer of the fundraising and advancement. So I'm out there soliciting donations and asking companies and individuals to support what we're doing. We don't receive any government funding. We don't apply for any government funding. We don't charge any program fees or operational fees. So the only revenue we get is from the generosity of others. And that's where I said at the outset, that transparency, that level of transparency and efficiency, we really try to be respectful of that. Our budget annually is around $110,000 to $120,000. And with that, we'll serve around 1.2 to 1.3 million pounds of food. So for every dollar that we're spending, we're serving around 10 pounds of food currently with our efficiency metrics. And that's something that we intend to do. And we have the flexibility, not having a warehouse, not having truck drivers on the road. We're not transporting or buying the food. We're really just handling logistics, and we're passing through all of those costs through our individual and corporate donors that are subsidizing the operations of the organization. The other thing that's nice too, as I said, that we're secular, we're also apolitical. So we're not taking stances conservatively or liberal. We are focused on feeding those people that are in need, whoever they may be. And that also, I think, as I always say, you're not going to get into trouble for supporting our organization. You don't have to worry about backlash or repercussions because we are really just keeping our heads down and feeding those people that are in need, doing God's work, really what it comes down to, but agnostic to anything besides just getting food in people's bellies.
Wow. And that's good because, that's not just some people, that's everybody. And so I love that, Derek. I think the work that you're doing, both with your professional life, with Summit Group Retirement Planners, and with Fiorenza's Food for Friends, is just really incredible work. So I just want to thank you for the good work that you're doing. Now, I was thinking that before we ended the program, I would love for you and I to talk a little bit about someone is watching this program who has been through some kind of an adversity, maybe it was a food adversity, maybe it was something else, maybe it was personal related, maybe it was business related. But I know that you yourself are a big proponent of, following God's will, of prayer, and of never stop believing in yourself and what you can do with a holy desire inside yourself, right? And so just talk about that, and how in your own life have you overcome adversities that come to all of us, not some of us, all of us, but how have you done that?
So you hit the nail on the head. We all have adversities in life, and it's all on how we respond to it. And I think what really helped for me, at least last year, I was talking to a deacon in adoration, and we had this thoughtful dialogue, just talking about suffering and loss and worrying and anxiety. And I kind of hinted at this at the beginning, but there are things outside of our control. So if you think of life as a continuum, there's the temporal while we're here, and then there's the eternal, which is forever with God. None of us knows how long that we have. But whatever has been done in the past, no matter how much we think about it, worry about it, rehash it, it can't be changed. We don't have the ability to time travel. There is no Marty McFly and Doc Brown, the time machine. I love the Back to the Future, but time machine doesn't exist in our reality, just in the movies. So anytime that we spend thinking about what the past was, the hurt, what it could have been, why am I here, that takes us away from the present moment, okay? Anytime we spend in the present moment worrying about what the future is going to be or not going to be, are we going to have enough money, are we going to have enough clients, are we going to meet the right person, that also creates anxiety, and it takes us away from our purpose of where we're at right now. And if our mind, and more importantly, our heart, is stuck in the past or worried about the future, we're not able to be present where God's planted us.
Exactly.
So what I would suggest to anybody that's struggling is, if you've been through something tough and challenging, accept it for what it is. Have grace with yourself and say, it's unfortunate. I didn't want things to go that way. But surrender any remaining pain and hurt that you might have on your heart. Surrender that to God. God will take care of that. Number two, if it involves somebody else, pray for them. Pray for their happiness. Pray for an overall acceptance of the situation. As it pertains to the future, think about the future that you want to have and work on creating it. And each step that you take, every decision you make, to run or not to run, to eat healthy today or not to eat healthy today, believe it or not, it compounds. And the person that you are today will be a result, the future person will be a result of the decisions you made today. So keep that in mind too. Don't let what's happened or what's going to happen stop you from making decisions today. And don't ever think, well, I ate poorly today, I might as well eat poorly tomorrow. Don't let that spiral effect occur. Each day is its own new opportunity. For that matter, each hour, each minute is its own new, fresh opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to become great. And greatness in the sense, not necessarily what the world might deem to be successful, having a lot of money. Maybe that is a measurement of success. But in the grander scheme of things, beyond the world's definition of success, God's definition of success, it's fulfillment of the heart. It's knowing, being at peace, that you're following God's plan for your life. And where do we find the most fulfillment in our life? When we're able to grow and when we're able to serve others. Giving and growing are the two keys. Because if you're constantly focusing on bettering yourself, you're focusing on where you're at now, and then someday you'll meet God. You don't want to say that you became half of the person that God destined you to be. You want to be able to say you got as close as possible to being that version that God wanted you to be, the best possible version. And if you're working on improving yourself, you're better positioned then to serve other people and to help other people that are struggling. Because that's the key. If we just worry about ourselves all the time, there's people that are suffering all around you that need your help. So the more time that you spend suffering and struggling, it's less time that you can spend helping other people.
Yeah, I love that last part of what you just said. I honestly, I've never heard it said quite that way. So I want to hand it to you because that's a good one to hold on to, isn't it? That when you're holding on to that suffering, now we're all going to suffer, like you said, we're all going to go through stuff. We're all going to have maybe poor relationships from the past or whatever it is, you know, people that disappoint us, or even when we disappoint ourselves, right?
Yep.
But that's not the point, because everything, you know, lots of things happen. People get sick, people lose their jobs, whatever that is. That's when you hold on to that. You're right. There's people who need us, and we can be part of mission. I talk about that a lot, even in some of the work that I do. So thanks for bringing that up. Before we end, did you have any other words of advice or anything else you want to leave with our audience?
Two things. One is just be compassionate with yourself, whatever you're struggling with or going through. Know that it has its own time, its own season. Life is never as bad as you think, and it's never as good as you think. So that's number one. And remember, too, life, the way we look at it, it really is temporal. So the worst of situations do end, but eternity with God is forever. So keep that perspective, because I think perspective is like the most important takeaway. And with perspective in mind, control what you can control, and that which you can't, surrender it. So perspective and surrender would be the two most important takeaways I could share with anyone that's willing to listen, because it's benefited me personally in my life, professionally, charitably. And without that reliance on God, knowing there's so much more that I don't have the ability to control, having that perspective, I'm working towards heaven and not just for the successes of today, and also having the approach that I need to surrender my anxiety, my stress, my pain, my hopes, my dreams. I need to put it on God's altar every day. Being intentional about that, I believe, will lead to more personal fulfillment for anyone that's listening that might be in that spot where they're struggling.
Yeah, you are a good person all the way around. I mean that, because like I said at the very beginning of the program, that, you know, I know you professionally, but you are a good friend of both my husband and I and of my family. So we're very grateful for your friendship and for the support that you've given us just in personal things. Like, for instance, your help with when we needed to get things together at the end of my daughter's wedding. And that was great that you were able to help us out toward the end of that cleanup procedures that we needed to do. So thank you. Thank you for so much. And so I want to invite you back again, Derek, sometime to come back on Journeys in Faith. And God bless you. God bless you for all that you do.
God bless you, Anne, and thank you for the work you do. I've been so inspired by your heart for service and helping others and the mission of your organization. So thank you for all that you do.
God bless. And we'll see all of you here next week on Journeys in Faith with Anne DeSantis on Fiat Ministry Network. See you then.
Journeys of Faith is a production of Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry. For more information about Journeys of Faith, email info@fiatministrynetwork.tv. And be sure to friend, follow, and like us on social media. Just search Journeys in Faith with Anne DeSantis.